What's up, everybody? Welcome to TPI, the Total Podcast Idiots Show. My name is Andrew. I'm idiot number one. I said that in the wrong order, showing how much I'm an idiot. And I'm joined by idiot number three, Chris. Chris is back. Welcome, Chris. How you doing?
I'm pretty good, Andrew. 2-0 day today, which is kind of rare, but hopefully, we get a little more of those more often. How about you?
Yeah, same 2-0, same thing. I won on a buzzer beater over a Legends team, Punkska's Lincoln University team. So I'm celebrating that. No, I it's a good win. Definitely, they're a good team. I'm happy with the win. I'm not expecting too much from Rochelle this year, but it looks like we might be pretty good. So maybe I should expect more. I don't know.
Yeah, I know you've had a couple disappointing ends to the last couple seasons of them, right? So maybe this season will be the one where they kind of get it all figured out and are able to be pretty consistent throughout the year.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, my point guard is a senior. My power forward, I have a good power forward. Yeah, we'll see. Um, I think the big news tomorrow, at least league wide or universe wide, at least, is like rivalry games start tomorrow, and with that are all these tournaments or invitationals, pods, groups, whatever you want to call them. So they officially start tomorrow. Are you in any rivalry like matchups like
So
that?
I'm in a rivalry game, not a tournament, but me and Cal State Dominguez Hills, we play every year, which is good now because we're not in the same conference.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think we played 3 times the last 2 years each
Yeah.
year. But we don't play for a few weeks. I'm not excited to play them because they look really good. So
Yeah, they do look really good. I think they're ranked already to start the season. And I know Holocron's team has struggled a little bit past few seasons, although they've managed to avoid demotion.
mm-hmm. That
But
was huge for them.
they were super young before, and now they are not as young. So
Yeah,
they look pretty good. Yeah, they
I
look
think he's
very good.
expecting a big season from them. It sounds like, and I mean, I think they look poised to deliver it. So
Hmm. Yeah. And then let's see, Dominican is in one of those invitationals. And so we play that team plays a Legends team in West Virginia. So that's a scary matchup right there for sure.
how do you feel about that one? What do you think?
Um, I'm feeling pretty good. I think we match up decently well. I don't think West Virginia looks as strong as they did in the previous seasons.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully we can pull it out. What's interesting is like Dominican has played West Virginia in non-con like a couple other times since I've been president, and that was not like set up as a rivalry. So it's kind of
Hmm.
interesting. It's now actually set up as a rivalry matchup.
Yeah, it's fun. It just kind of turned into one, right? That's pretty.
Yeah, yeah.
And I know
Um,
you've said good things about West Virginia for a few years now on the pod. So
Time to smoke them though.
yeah, yeah, time to take all that back.
Yeah, no, but they're a legend team, good program. It'll be interesting tomorrow for sure, for sure. Um, the other big news, and I think this will tie into today's subject, which I'm really excited about because I wanted to talk about this in some manner for a while. Today's subject will be kind of like the psychology of Hardwood about this game, just like all the weird little things, mind tricks, and things that happen with this game. It's like part one of who knows how many parts.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I wanted to mention it'll be very focused on recruiting, I think, because Hardwood is very focused on recruiting, right?
Yep.
And with that, tomorrow is the first day that those dang recruits start signing the teams.
We're gonna get that Hoff commitment live on ESPN. I think at 10 a.m. Right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, I mean, in case anyone didn't know, the number one prospect in the class, the senior class, Brian Hoffmeister, he is a eager to commit early player. And one of my teams is one of the main suitors for him. I'll say I don't want to divulge too much because I'm nervous.
Yeah, and it doesn't help that there are definitely a few people who are recruiting him who listen to the podcast. So
Yeah.
I know there's quite a few on there that are looking pretty eager to sign him, but that's going to be a fun one whenever it actually pops. So
Yeah, and I've told you and Rob and a few other people, like how nervous I am and what I actually think about, this recruiting race. Like I want him obviously, duh, but if he goes to Azusa Pacific or Houston or Cal State LA, I won't be, too upset really. If he goes to Cal State San Bernardino, I'm going to be upset though.
Well, yeah, I think that's where we got, that's why this topic's a good topic today. So we can mentally prepare you in case he does not go.
Thanks. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, you're going to take, here's the thing. Every team takes L's in recruiting in Hardwood, even Legends teams. So, I think it's kind of all about bouncing back and making sure that you've, recruited good backup options or at least have some guys on your list you can jump on.
Yeah, definitely. That's true. I think I've got maybe a couple. I don't know.
Probably none that are going to be that are going to fill those giant shoes. But hey, fingers crossed that he decides to be a Penguin. So
yeah, fingers crossed, definitely. Yeah. So I mean, the psychology of Hardwood, right? I mean, we spend so much time on this. We inevitably think about it, not only when we're looking at it on our screen, but when we're just doing our work jobs or driving around or whatever, and I mean that's gonna pervade into like a lot of your life. Anything that happens will pervade into a lot of your life. I mean, so how do you deal with the ups and downs of Hardwood? Do you do anything or have any tips on what to do?
yeah, so I think when it comes to recruiting, right? Like I think recruiting is probably my favorite aspect of this game. I find it really interesting. I find like scouting really fun. I think that's just something that's always drawn me to it. Whenever I, lose out on a prospect, I definitely dwell on it a little bit. And I think, I mean, I must have mentioned, I mentioned Miles Sherwood to you like 45 times last year after I'd already been out of the race. I was so pissed off. But I think the best way to remember it is that, like, you can always log out of the game when I think about it, and I can, go do something else, something more productive, but still try to enjoy my time. And that's what helps me not get burnt out on Hardwood, is that I'm able to, kind of distance myself from it whenever I need to, while still being able to log in and have a good time.
Yeah. I'm just saying yeah because I'm trying to come up with a response in what I do, because I don't know, I don't think I've come up with like a good way to cope with the ups and downs so much.
Yeah.
Luckily I haven't had a lot of downs. I mean, in terms of recruiting losses, I kind of go at it differently. I don't get into recruiting battles in the first place, so I don't
Very
expect
true.
to lose. um
Which
but
someone, I mean, you
games.
could argue that's really smart, because you're not having to deal with, that, like, you're not putting nearly as much stress on your recruiting because you are recruiting guys that you feel very confident you can land for the most part.
Yeah. But I mean, not to say I haven't lost on recruiting battles, before, Sonny McAfee, when Gene McMillan way back when, Kwame McKenzie way back when, man, those are my first guys with Dominican. I was like pretty, Kwame, I wasn't as upset. Gene McMillan, I was pretty upset. Sonny McAfee, I was pretty upset though. And like, I think what I did was just realize that the next day was right around the corner pretty much. And that's the beauty of Hardwood too, like literally something's happening every single day and it'll bring something new. And hopefully it doesn't like spiral. That can be kind of depressing then.
Right. When you're experiencing it back to back to back to back. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So I mean, just like having different things, even just within Hardwood, having different things to latch onto, whether it's games and the results, or it's recruiting,
Mm-hmm.
or it's development, even any of those things, and there's plenty more. Finding that gem prospect can be like a big boost in your mindset, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's probably the best and worst thing about Hardwood, is that it's such a quick turnaround, because, you might lose by 15 to a team that you thought you were going to be competitive in, or maybe even win the game. And then the next day you get a +5 dev on, one of your young guys. And it completely flips the tide of you just, getting that endorphins rush, feeling really good about it. And at the same time, like I said, about one of the bad parts is that there really isn't a whole lot of a Hardwood off season, so you do put a good amount of time into it. But whether it's just getting an extra interest level on a recruit, or, winning a game, or just getting some nice dev, there's always things to look forward to. I mean, I'll give my phone a quick check pretty much every day around noon my time when recruits are out, just to see like, oh, did somebody pop? Like, did a big recruit go? Did somebody go to one of my schools? Somebody go to a rival? Like, those things keep me interested. Even whenever my teams the last 2 years were losing a lot of games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have a lot of experience in this the last year for sure. So I think we won like 7 games. So I think the development was huge. It's just so fun to watch the players that you scout and you recruit grow, because they really feel like your players, and it makes the team feel a lot more like your team once you've taken one over like halfway through.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, like, it's okay to get emotionally attached to your teams and your players. I mean, that's what makes it fun.
Mm-hmm.
When I landed Bruce Span a few years ago, I was happy. I don't know if I was like really, really happy. I know I like got up out of my chair and like did a fist pump, but I wasn't like screaming my head off or anything. I might do that tomorrow if Hoff commits to me.
Oh yeah. I think you need to have like just shouting out all your haters on the podcast, like 5-minute segment. If you can.
Yeah. But like, if he, like I said, if he signs elsewhere, or any of these guys sign elsewhere, it's like, I'll definitely feel down, but I'll definitely get to work on finding a backup, a suitable one, and that'll get me excited, because that's another thing I love about Hardwood personally. Like, I love like digging deep for these crazy underrated, underscouted, under-recruited gems, and just I'll send you a ton of links and be like, oh my god, look at this guy. Look who I found.
It helps that you're great at it too. I think it kind of makes it a little easier. But you're right. I think that's, we've all lost recruits that we've had some sort of attachment to, whether it's we put 70 points into them, or they're from our hometown, or there's something you've developed with that player. We all lose recruits like that, and it does suck, but it almost makes landing them feel that much better, right? Like I don't land a recruit and I'm like, oh, okay, whatever, I expected him to commit. I really get excited about it, and it's something that I think, how am I going to scheme and fit him in my system? And I mean, we've all had those recruits like you're talking about, where it's it's a fist pump. It's definitely like a let's go moment. You're really excited. Like I think we've all had that, and you can all, I'd imagine you could ask on the Discord, and probably 80% of users could name a guy off the top of their head from seasons ago that they felt that way about. So.
For sure. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about how these things, your mindset changes your strategy though. Right. So let's talk about, we've been talking about losing a recruit. How does losing a recruit, like we said, it affects you negatively, but how does that change your strategy with recruiting, especially obviously recruiting strategy? Where are you spending your points? What are you doing then? Right.
Yeah. I think last year I experienced this probably with Fullerton for the first time, where we lost out on a recruit that I was at low on a couple contacts, 2-star center. I didn't think a lot of people would go after him, but he had good size. He grew 3 inches at the flip, and I was like, cool, we're going to take him. I'm going to go to medium, put 10 points more into him. And then the next day I log in and I see a teams at high. I see teams at high that, is only on 2 players and likely has put a lot of resources into him. And I had to make the judgment call to say, okay, I don't know if this recruit is worth putting those points into. But as I've talked with you, I mean, losing him really helped me develop a different strategy for recruiting big men, where big men are so important in the Hardwood universe. And my team is, there's good guards on the West Coast are a dime a dozen, right? There's tons of them out there. And I think that I was so focused on finding those good guys that whenever I lost this 2-star recruit, I was almost stargazing and thinking about, I want the 4-star guy. I want the 5-star guy with the 13 pot, 14 pot, whatever. It's really made me focus and look back at, maybe I should try to find more of those gyms, or should try to invest a little more in a guy that I really do want, that has some traits that are harder to find, like, good size, good athleticism and a big. I mean, it's really changed my perception on that. And then with losing recruits at UCA, I mean, I think last year I lost, or the year before last, I lost 4 or 5 guys that were my, A and B targets, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But I was able to find a guy who's going to probably be my starting center for the next 2 or 3 years, in Tavon Cook, who was under recruited. I think I got him with 7 contacts. He's not Dwight Howard, like prime Dwight Howard or prime Shaq, but he's going to be a really serviceable player for me for a long time. And finding those guys almost feels better when you get that under the radar guy and you can link his profile when he's a senior and be like, look how good this guy is. I think it's just all about kind of, getting that quick flip motion in your brain to start looking at some of those different options, because if you dwell on it for too long and you've lost a couple battles in a row, I mean, it's going to feel like you're never going to win one. Right.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see, when I lost like McAfee, I switched to trying to find a backup, and I picked one up out of Florida, because Fury 508 second team like didn't have enough scholarships. So I noticed him. He was okay. He was a big, pretty big guy with decent like points in the right areas, but like honestly he hasn't been that great. Like he hasn't developed that well for me. So my strategy, it was to find a backup, but I think part of the issue was like it happened so late that I probably shouldn't have even gone after anyone. I should have just moved on to the next class. But just like that feeling of losing out on someone that I had invested in for 2.5 seasons, I mean that was a big blow. And so like I felt like this panic and this need to try to fill that slot somehow, when I probably didn't really need to. So I think like I needed to reevaluate my strategy and like take some time to like figure out my actual plan and like plan it out a little differently based on losing McAfee and not. But yeah, I think my strategy changed by like looking for the backup, but I don't think it changed in the right way,
Right. And you're right. Like FOMO is huge in Hardwood, where you might lose out on a guy and you think, oh, like I had to take a big this class. Like I might, I'm going to have I'm going to have 2 open scholarships, 3 open scholarships, whatever. And you balanced it out in your head. And I mean, you're making spreadsheets and getting crazy with scholarship distribution. It can really like skew your view. And I think for as much as we want to go in there and immediately throw an offer on a guy and start dumping points into him, I do almost feel like, and I've told you this before, where like I like to sleep on it whenever I'm, because I still haven't offered Choate, that 5-star freshman in California, and I'm very proud of myself because nobody else has. And I've gotten very close multiple times, but I think to myself, I'm in 2 high-profile battles. I could use those points a little better. And like you said, this happened to me last year where I lost out on my top point guard recruit to Memphis, and I thought, I really need to get a backup. Like I really need some guy in there who can play minutes. I don't like the guys in my roster. And then I thought to myself, I've got some serviceable guys. The team isn't going to be great next year, so it's not like we need them right now. I'm going to start investing in next year's class, right? Because at that point, a lot of the junior guards in the South still are pretty open. And that's where you find them. And it might be a sophomore. It might be putting some points in a freshman. It might be putting points into a guy you already invested in. But you just have to be able to pivot in these different situations, because like you just said, your backup option isn't always just some under-recruited 2-star guy in Florida. Like it's possible that it's a guy in your home state. It's possible that it's a guy who's a late bloomer. I mean, we've seen some of those, or maybe he's just got a little bit of a fault that would still work in your system,
Yeah. And like, I think that's the case when you lose out on the recruit late, but like if it's early, I think there's still enough time to, find a good backup. I've definitely seen some good backups late in this. Well, I've seen some good backup options late in the season too, but it's definitely like a lot harder. But like early in the season, there's like still a lot of good options, I think.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, right now, there's guys I have on my list that I think are going to be really good players in the international pool, in the senior pool, that have zero interest shown. Guys like we jumped on today. And especially if you've got some open scholarships or you don't have that redshirt penalty, You can get some points on those guys pretty quick, but they're out there early in the season. It's almost, I really think it's so much better to lose a guy early in the season than late, because late, like last year with Toby Henry, right? Compared to a guy like Hoff this year, you're not going to find another Hoff if he commits elsewhere, but you really can take some time to evaluate and pivot. Toby Henry committed with like 6 or 7 periods left last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Naf posting in the Discord, like just being completely frank about like, this is where I'm dumping all of my points, because at this point, like the cost of putting points in someone else greatly like outweighs like continuing to put them in Henry, or I'm sorry, the other way around. It greatly outweighed it to continue to put those in Henry, because there wasn't anybody that was going to be a suitable plan, whether it was this class or next class.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're right there that like losing a guy early, if you lose him in the first, 10 or 15 periods, there's so many backup plans you can work with, whether it's this class, next class, even checking JUCO guys. Like I had to do that a little bit to bridge the gap scholarship wise with Fullerton, and it's worked out for me so far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think in Toby Henry's like a really good example of that, I think, because NAF was very open about that. And it was interesting because it caused St. Mary's to going after Henry in that manner, caused St. Mary's to lose out on another prospect that they were on, right? And, NAF was really trying to balance it like mentally, I think, at first. And then he just decided to go all in on Henry. So, I mean, that takes like some discipline, I think, in your mind to be able to do, because I think a lot of people who aren't as disciplined would try to do both at the same time, thinking that, St. Mary's being an LL2 and having a good recruiting coach, oh yeah, they can like still win out on Henry. When once Kansas State, a Legends team, shows up and Oklahoma shows up, I mean, then I don't think you can really do that. But some people might still think that they can, or hope that they can, really try to have the best of both worlds, when it's probably not possible.
Yeah. And I think you're definitely right in that it's, using NAF is a good example there, where he did definitely fight over it a little bit. It seemed like I've put points into this guy, like nobody was on him. It's going to be fine. And a team appears on him, but he's already invested so much into Henry. And I think you really have to look at, if I start splitting points on these guys, there's a good chance I end up with none.
Yeah, right.
That can kill your recruiting. I mean, we saw that last year, not to call anybody out, but Arkansas did that, just because I'm familiar with the situation, where they went after, I think, a high 4-star and 2 5-star guys that they were clearly splitting points on, whenever other teams were primarily focusing on those. And I think that's something that comes along with being a little more of a seasoned Hardwood vet, almost like you talked about with Fury 508 being able to take that player because he was out of scholarships. Being aware of the other team's scholarship situation and the recruiting list is so valuable, because if you see a guy who's on in 4 battles and you're going after a player that they are, you can feel a lot more comfortable than a team that's on 1 or 2 guys and that's able to consistently dump points into them. I think it's just being able to strategize around that is huge.
Yeah, and it's not to say that you need to know like every team's recruiting board. Like,
don't get too crazy.
But like, there's just certain things you kind of notice when you look around, when you look at the recruiting news regularly, and then you do your search, and then you're like, oh, didn't this team just sign a player like that fits this role? Then you might go check them out, check out that player, check out the team that's on them, and or didn't this team just sign like 4 guys in the past few days? Like, then you go look at the prospects they're currently on, see how many scholarships they have, that type of thing. Yeah, definitely that's part of the strategy too, for sure. And you mentioned something a bit earlier that I hadn't even thought about before, like we talked about what we're going to talk about today. NAF posted in the Discord about going all in on Henry. And Kansas State, I don't think, is too active in the Discord, but Oklahoma, Fury 508 is. Like, I don't know how I'm trying to put this. You can like, I don't want to say like weaponize Discord or the forums or PRs or whatever, but you kind of can in that way. NAF could have said that, but not done it.
Right.
In Fury 508 Oklahoma, because they're like the lower league level, they have to be scared that they're going to lose out on Henry because Naff says that. I mean, they should be scared anyways. They're both on high, but you take when Naff says that as a lower level team, I would think like, oh, I think I should bail now.
Yeah.
And like that's a psychological trick to use. And it's maybe not psychological, but it's a trick that people can use, I think.
It's poker, right? That's all. I mean, that's all it is. And when you think about the psychological aspect of that, where some guys might be bluffing, like you said, some guys might be all in. I thought, to me, I was like, there's no way that Naff isn't going all in on this guy. But for all we know, he could have been splitting points the entire time with somebody else. I know he's on a big time junior now. That's something he could have been doing. But I mean, I've seen people post in the Discord before saying that I do this with my recruiting, or I do that with my recruiting, or I keep 25 points in my back pocket and stuff like that. Like, and it makes me wonder, like, is that a half truth? Is it a full truth? Like, because, I like to keep points in my pocket, but at the same time, am I lying to you right now? Am I like, do I have 0 points whenever I log in, or do I have 15? I think it's something that with us having that active community, whether it's on the forums or it's on the Discord, I think you can kind of play a little bit of mind games, and they might not work. I mean, we see it with matchups in actual games, but a lot of us are on the same recruits and some of these high profile guys. And there's no reason that if you feel like you can kind of throw some weight around and maybe, make some vague threats, in game, there's no reason you can't, if you want to play it that way. And it might not make people, super excited to be in recruiting battles with you for one reason or another, but it's something you can definitely go that route with.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're all, not all, I think a lot of people are very honest about their stuff, but we're also human. And I think the nature of these types of games is to find loopholes and exploit them too. And so I just want, people to be aware, like, there's things people can do with everything at their disposal, and people are going to try to take advantage of those, I think, a lot of the time.
Yeah. And I mean, I think we see that with some schools to an extreme standpoint, where I know it's harder for lower level schools to get some players now, they say, but I mean, we see schools every day that we're, recruiting against that have 12 open scholarships or 11 open scholarships and a board full of 5 and 4 stars. And it makes you wonder, like, is it worth competing in that? Because, how much does this, and this is a whole different podcast that we, I'm sure that there isn't enough data that we actually have on it, but how much does that outweigh me being in a higher league level with this guy having immediate playing time and starting? And I think, that's just another example of that, of people will find a way to use the system if it's going to work for them. But at the same time, you can make the argument that it doesn't work because those teams are, an LL6 or LL5 or whatever. But you're right. I think people are going to find whatever competitive advantage they can use and maximize it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's switch to a more positive topic, I guess, but it's just the opposite, basically. How does your strategy, how does your mindset, how does your attitude change when you sign a recruit? When you land that kid you've been chasing for maybe one season, maybe just a few days, honestly, maybe multiple seasons. I mean, what does that do for you?
So even guys that like I don't have a lot of competition on, it still feels great, right? It just feels, it's such a nice feeling to log in and you look at the commitment list, you see that bolded name in the school and Cal State Fullerton landed a kid. This is awesome. This feels great. He's going to slot here perfectly. I can move my focus to the next one, which is, that's the bad part, is it is, short-lived a little bit where it feels good. I'll send some Discord messages to you and Rob, typically, just getting really excited, but I think it gives you that nice endorphin rush, and then it allows you to maximize your points because you're no longer putting points into a guy who was about to commit. And you can start moving on to new prospects, or maybe even saving some of those points in case somebody, pops up that you like, or a scholarship situation opens up that you like. So.
Yeah, exactly. Just in terms of the attitude, it's a lot of excitement, but it's kind of short-lived. I mean, in our group chat, it's like we're all just happy for each other whenever any of us sign a recruit. We're always like, crew, and then like rush to recruiting news to see like which of our teams got him, or
Yeah, we don't
which
want
of
to
us got
spoil
him.
it.
Yeah, we try not to spoil it. Or and who it is too. Yeah, so it's always fun with that. Um, and the main Discord too often will put something like, "Oh, congrats to this to you for on this guy." Yeah, and so
Yeah, we
I
love bragging about our classes in the Discord. Everybody, it's and do it, man. If you put the
yeah.
time and effort into it, talk about your 3-star shooting guard or something like that, because he's your 3-star shooting guard and he matters. So it's really exciting.
Yeah.
Or maybe a surprise commit. A guy like Ben Fong, who we thought was going to be working at Foot Locker, and now he's
Mhm.
going to be earning some serious playing time in the next couple of years. That was one that was funny because I think that was you had no idea, right? You'd completely written him off.
I hadn't I hadn't invested in him that whole season.
Yeah.
Or last full season, and yeah, it had been a while since I'd even put a point on him or anything. So
Was
yeah,
that a double
kind
commit
of,
there?
was that the final one?
No, I think that was the same day that you had the kid from Georgia commit too, right?
I think they were the same day. Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember sitting in Discord, I was like, commits, like commit, and you're like, oh yeah, I got it. And I was like, no.
Oh, that's right.
The list.
That's right. Yeah. They were the same day because I was more focused on Cunningham, and so I went straight down to where Cunningham would be.
Yep.
And I just totally scrolled past Fong. Yeah. They were the same day. That was funny. Yeah, I mean, like when two guys come in, I mean, hey, that's a lot of excitement.
What it's like, yeah. One day.
Yeah, one day it'll happen. And like you said, it changes your strategy because obviously, yeah, you're not funneling points into them, but more so, it's even more than that. It's like you're not even thinking about all the possibilities that scholarship can go to, all the players, all the possibilities of players, because like when you have that still open, yeah, you have your main target, but you always have your backup targets, and you're like, oh, should I save points for them? What do I do? But once you sign that whoever, it doesn't really matter, then you just eliminate all those options for that scholarship pretty much.
Yeah. And I think it's almost just an ease of mind, right? Like you do get that celebration, but at the same time, it's okay. Like I don't need to worry about this position. I've got this set, assuming this guy devs well, which he should, because I've looked at his dev rates and I've got a good coach.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to have a really solid, 4 or 5 years. And I should be good to go. So I think that it just takes, the game can be stressful, and it just takes a little bit of that stress off. So
yeah, for sure.
Although if I get this 5-star recruit, that the junior that I'm on, I will probably tell multiple people in my real life about it that are going to have no idea what I'm talking about and be very excited. So I'll make a big deal about that one if it happens.
Yeah, I might mention this to some people in my real life. If Hoffmeister doesn't commit, I'll still talk about it. They're gonna be like, who? And I'll just say number one player in the class. Number one
center for Sunnyvale. He's great. Like I real quick story. I found this, and I remember I sent him to you and I sent him to Rob. I found a 13 pots like center with like 30 good comments out in Utah, and he was like 60 SI, and I was like, this guy, this guy's gonna be a monster, right? Like I'm so excited. I dumped like tons of points in him. I'm at medium because he's out of region, and at night I tell my wife, I go, okay, I know you don't care, right? And I go, I'm just so hyped. Like I found this great recruit. It's going to be awesome. Like I just got to keep teams off of him. And then like a day and a half later, the top team in the region offered him, and they were high. And I was like, I just tell her, I go, yeah, that thing I was really excited about. Yeah, it's just gone. It's over with.
Oh my god!
But she listened, and that's it. That's what matters. So
yeah. I mean, let's talk about that. How does your mindset change when another team enters the recruiting race? We'll talk about it in general, but you can expand it to like a higher level team or a lower level team or whatever.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's happened to all of us, right? Just like how we've all found gyms and we've all signed good recruits, is that sometimes you're going to get poached, sometimes you're just going to get out recruited. It is what it is. I've had players that I've spent 60 contacts on, 70 contacts on, that
you've never had an 100 plus.
I have not yet.
Oh wow! Okay.
Although I will, because Charles Reinhardt is going to have over 100 contacts.
Right. Yeah.
But I've had those players where I might have been first on them or might have come in right after and thought, okay, this is a little risky. I could be putting these points elsewhere, which kind of comes down to that cost, analysis that you have to do in your head. But I've had that happen where those guys commit elsewhere, and it's either, okay, shoot, like I need to move on to the next plan, or everything's fine, and then a team comes in and just straight up poaches a player, right? Like I experienced this a lot in LL6, where I'm in the South and, a team might just come in. I had that happen with one of the two guys I was recruiting at the start of this year, right? Thankfully, It happened at the start of the year because there are more options that you can go out and look for. But I've taken a route with UCA that I don't want to be in these battles because I've lost quite a few of them. And I just think that I would rather get the talent that I can. And so I'm willing to go after recruits that might be a little less than what I could potentially contend for, because I want those guys on my team. Now with Cal State Fullerton, it's a little the opposite because I am, higher league, and I feel like I might be able to compete a little more. I have more open playing time, but I think that's something that goes into the whole analysis of your own recruiting situation, that you kind of have to think, how is this going to work if a LL2 team jumps on this guy, or if an LL3 team jumps on this guy? It's really a lot of stuff that you kind of had to plan out and focus. But I think we've all had that happen, and it really sucks. But it's the danger in recruiting, right? We're recruiting good players. Yeah. Other teams are going to want them. So it happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Luckily, this game has so many players that, like, even though you find a good player, and likely someone else has seen them, they're not always going to get, interest or recruited by other people. Like there's another game that I play, and it's like, if you find a good prospect, it's like everyone else has also seen them too.
Yeah.
And like, that's the case here. But in that game, I think that person will get recruited. In this game, it's not always the case. I've had plenty of guys who weren't recruited, like, at all, it seems like, and they've turned out pretty well. Mm-hmm. So there's that, if you go down low enough too, and no one's going to touch them.
True. You're going to get a couple of bots at the end of the year, but nobody will touch them. That's true.
True. But the other thing is, like, me, I'll post about, like, all my recruiting battles, and it's not really a battle, because the second any team shows up, I am immediately starting to justify in my head why I should bail on that prospect.
100%. Yeah. Every time, I think you've like walked away from the Hoff recruitment, not this year and not the end of last year, but multiple times. I feel like you were like, I can't do this. Right. Yeah. And then, like, next day you're putting points into them and you're like, no, I have to do this. Yeah. But typically when it's a player, I mean, there's been lots of guys that you've had low interest on or medium interest on, a team moves in on, and you just say, nope, my points are going to be better spent somewhere else where I know I can get the recruit.
Yeah. That happens a lot. Yeah. And, it's usually because, like, it's because I don't really want to deal with, like, the competition, the increased costs. I just don't think it's efficient. Yeah. And that's, like, my main goal is efficiency.
Trust the process.
Yeah, exactly. And, so, like, having competition will drive up the number of contacts it takes per sub level to move. So that's why I don't really like it. But then, I'll usually, like, something goes off in my head where it's like, I'll find something wrong with the player, and I'm like, he's too light, or his splits in his defense aren't good enough, or his SI dev rate is not good, or his projected height isn't enough.
It's not enough. Yeah. I think, and that we've talked about that, right? It's death by overanalyzation, right? I think specifically, we have talked about that, where, I mean, 2 days ago, I was freaking out to you about my junior and sophomore big situation. I mean, it's something that is so far off, that is so manageable. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't have enough guys that are going to be on my team. But I think we all experience that. And at the same time, that's kind of how we cope with this game, where, cutting down on that as much as you can, if you can't handle it, really helps. And focusing on things like dev, or focusing, like, things on individual performances in games that might shine out, can really stop you from doing that, because that can, in my experience at least, that can cause some burnout in this game. And we obviously don't want to experience that, because it's something we really enjoy.
Yeah. And actually, I think that's another big thing that we have maybe an advantage on. I mean, it's not like it's breaking the rules or anything, but, like, we're friends who can talk to each other regularly about this game and bring up all these concerns and have like kind of a third party still look at it and give us like an objective opinion, that'll help us, be more grounded versus like even just in the normal Discord, like, I don't know, people don't regularly ask like all their questions, and have them answered, and then teams, more experienced owners don't have anyone at their level to like talk to. Maybe they do, they probably do, but if they don't, then that can be tough because it's like you don't have anyone to bounce ideas off of
Yeah.
or yeah, just like cope with all these things. This game is changing a lot, and the experienced owners are learning too, so I think that's an advantage that we have, or that's a benefit and a nice thing that we have, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say find a hardwood buddy. If you can, like, I know you message like people just come to you and they're like, I got questions, I got stuff. I know that that happens, and I've talked a little bit with some of the other owners, and I think it just helps to kind of bounce ideas off. And I mean, I've talked with owners that I've been in direct competition with recruits on, that I've that I play every year, and that's kind of what makes this community so fun, right? That it's not super cutthroat for the for the most part. People are friendly with each other, like they're willing to give advice. I mean, you see every day or every other day people posting in the advice section of the Discord saying, what do I do about my small forward rotation? Or what do I do with this? Whenever that information could potentially be directly used against them, but people are willing to reach out and help. And I feel like that almost is where the really experienced owners get to shine, because they might not have people they can bounce their ideas off of, but they're like, let me take a crack at your team and let's think through it. And I think that does really help, because not only does it stop you from making rash decisions sometimes, like offering a tin pot freshman, but also it just kind of helps you stay grounded in your thinking, and stay in your way. Even if he's like 6'6" or whatever I said, whatever he was.
Yeah. And that's a really good point. Like, it's always, for some reason, like it's the case with a lot of things that I've dealt with, at least, editing essays or writing, looking at fantasy baseball or basketball or football teams, Hardwood. I'm so much better at looking at other people's work, other people's teams, than my own, right? And I think that's very common. There's a lot of biases involved with that, and it helps to like look at other teams, and figure out how you would give advice, or just plain out give the advice that they're asking for it, because it helps you like sharpen your objectivity to like look at your own team then too, which is probably the best way. I mean, granted, there's always stories we like with certain players, some guy we recruited in his way back when we first started, and we've seen them grow into such a great player, all-time leading scorer or something,
Or you've seen him be a bench warmer on a team and not really get that many minutes, and that always kind of feels, you should have come to my school, you should have done this, that's always a nice feeling too. So
yeah, that's true.
Much more, Schadenfreude type thing, but it's still pretty enjoyable.
Yeah. Let's see, where else did I want to go with this? I mean, this is just one part of many. Do you have any other like things? I'm going to try to pull up one other thing to talk about for the end of it, but do you have anything in mind right now?
I think the one thing I would suggest to owners that that I've started to try to do a little bit, because like I don't feel like I'm great at the tactical aspect of the game, right? So when people ask me or ask people in the Discord in the advice section, what do I do with this stuff? A lot of times I don't feel like I'm qualified to give answers, but I'll still look at the questions and I think through them on what would I do? How would I do it? And this is obviously depending on how much free time you have, right? But I would think like, how would I answer this situation? How do I do that? And so when somebody like Fury steps in, or somebody, who has a lot of experience in it, I like to kind of compare about what I would have done in the situation with what they would do. And I think it just kind of makes you a little bit better gaining experience that way. It's not your team, like you said, so you're not overanalyzing everything, but you are able to look at somebody else's situation and kind of apply the logic you have and see what else other owners would do.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's how I first started, reading the forums and reading through the advice channel on Discord. Like, I don't think I gave too much advice in the beginning, and I do definitely more now. But yeah, like it would always be like trying to understand the reasoning for the question, thinking about how I would give advice, thinking about how thinking the reasoning through the advice, thinking about how it can be applied to my teams. Yeah, for sure. That's really good. And my way of thinking, when it's about recruiting, it's like, okay, what am I looking for in certain recruits then with tactics? What are the certain scenarios where certain tactics work better than others? Yeah, that's a really good point. There was one thing, the other thing I wanted to talk about actually was something that happened to you today in your games. What happens to you psychologically when a player you want a red shirt plays in a game you didn't mean them to play and plays like very few minutes?
So to start, it could be worse because it could have been his sixth game. But I did play my freshman big man 4 minutes because I clicked the wrong red shirt box and lowered the minutes on my junior power forward instead. I was surprised when I saw it. I was confused, I think, because the other team had a guy with the same last name. So I was double confused. But at the end of the day, like, there's a chance, right? Because I'm fighting to stay up in my league this year. There's a chance I might not have been able to play him outside of injury in a game that could have been really competitive in conference. And so even though he only got a few minutes, I think the way I look at it is it's better than him not getting those minutes at the end of the year because I wasn't able to find a spot to play him, right? Like, let's say you play all of the youngsters in the year-end exhibitions and you don't make it on and you only play 3 of them, that's 4 games used if I don't find another spot for him. I'm sure I will with injuries. That happens, I think, to every team, especially when you're a thinner roster. But I kind of had to look on the bright side and say, look, like, I got the recruit in the first place, which, has been a bit of a challenge. And he got some minutes. It could have been worse. One of my starters could have got hurt where I had to play more. He could have got hurt and not got any minutes, or he could have fouled out in like 45 seconds. But, I think that you got to look on the bright side of this stuff because there's no going back and changing it, right?
True. Yeah, definitely. It's, find that silver lining, definitely. And obviously, make the adjustment.
I went in as soon as I realized it. I went in and I changed it and I said, okay, I'm not going to do that again. So
yeah, it happened to me. It's happened to me a few times where like a player, luckily it's only been their 5th game, or 5th or 4th game or something, but not that 6th game. And they played each of the times it's happened, they played 0 minutes. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh no.
And me, like I'm all about efficiency. So when I see I lost, 25 to 30 minutes, I'm like,
oh, kills you.
Crap. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I'm upset for the whole day, but I'm upset for like a little bit,
Yeah, you'll dwell on that a little bit, which I understand because you do want that maximum development. And in your mind, that's 30 minutes. That's 28 minutes. That's, something like that. But I think it almost helps that a couple of days ago, people were posting about how they forgot to click their red shirt box and then their player didn't get a red shirt at all after playing 5 games. So I think since it's being so close to that, I've just kind of been able to say, I'm going to on the bright side with this, I'm going to think it's positive. So
yeah, for sure. And like, the silver lining for me was in the grand scheme of things, 30 minutes is not that big of a deal.
Right.
In their whole career, so yeah, whatever.
It's missing a game to a slight injury, right? Like that's all you got to think about it. Like there's so many games these guys are going to play, so many minutes, especially if they're going to be an impactful player in your rotation. So it could be a lot worse. You could miss a whole year, or you could not have the recruit at all. Kind of going back to what we were talking about. So
yeah, and actually there was an even worse case though because it wasn't a red shirt. It was it was like towards the end of the season, right? Like, and I was juggling minutes of like seniors and redshirt freshmen and young players, right? And so I, like towards the end of the season, I wanted to drop my seniors and raise my redshirt freshmen, right? And then so that was fine. But then in the first round of the playoffs of the conference tourney, I forgot to reset it.
Yes, I remember.
And in my senior, he didn't play, and I was like, oh my gosh. And luckily I won. That's the silver lining. I won that first round. I think I did. Or maybe it didn't matter. I don't remember. And I was just like, oh my gosh.
It could be like you said, it could be a lot worse. Although that's a lot worse than my guy playing 4 minutes. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
right. It could be a
And
lot worse, at least potentially.
yeah, yeah. So it was yeah, I always try to make sure to like, just hit the checklist every game that I might make an adjustment like that, but
Yeah.
it happens and you forget things and everything. So,
We have
you
real
know,
lives going on, whether it's work or it's friends, relationships, whatever. I mean,
mhm,
it's been a stressful time for everybody the last year. I think it's
yeah,
understandable to not check hardwood compulsively as much as we might do it. So if that happens, you don't feel bad about it. You still got other games to worry about. You still got time you can play with that player. So it's all good. Look on the bright side.
for sure. Yeah. All right. Well, I think that about covers it for today.
Yep.
Again, this is like part one of many parts. I'm sure we'll have many other little aspects to this little topic. I mean, big topic. Um, so yeah, you got anything else to add, Chris?
I would just say again, if you've got any questions you might have on how we think through certain aspects of the game or how certain aspects of the game affect us, after they happen, just shoot them over. We're always happy to discuss that stuff, and we appreciate the viewers' input.
Yeah. Oh, one last thing to add. Sorry. In the forums, Cough Daddy's putting together this like
Hmm.
best of the rest tournament. He's taking like all the historical D1 teams. So like even if your team is in LO6 now, if you are in D1 at some point and you made the hardwood tourney but didn't win the whole thing, then you qualify for this in this pool of teams. So he's gonna pick 64 of the I think 150-ish teams or so.
Mm-hmm.
Fullerson's one of them. Yeah, my
Hopefully,
Dominican
yeah.
team last season is one of them.
Grant Jordan's
Uh,
binge.
Brant Jordan's revenge. Yeah, yeah. Will Clevenger's coming back, baby.
I'll say
Um,
for my case, I will say that our best big man got hurt right in the Elite Eight, right before the Elite Eight game, so we did have to play a freshman. So I will just say, that maybe things would have been a little different. Although I thought
that's
we
fair.
lost by like 25. So
um, yeah. So like all these different teams are in it, and I think the plan is for Cough Daddy to like reel one matchup every day, and the
Mhm.
community will vote on the winner of that matchup, and we'll just go matchup by matchup every single day till we crown a champion. Um, yeah, it's in honor of Hardwood's 20th season, right? That's crazy.
No, it's awesome. I know Cough Daddy had mentioned like he had something kind of going on in planning. I definitely didn't think it was going to be something this huge. I mean, it's a big
Mhm.
undertaking. Again, Cough Daddy continues to do awesome work for the Hardwood community. I would think like maybe we're gonna have voting options by Discord, whether it's using little emojis or whatever to vote for a team, or maybe it'll just be on the forums exclusively. But either way, really looking forward to seeing what people think of their teams and what people think of other people's past teams. So.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, there's lots of vets who like know about all these teams
Oh
historically.
yeah.
It'll be interesting to see like some people try to defend their teams, like get reason. That'll be really fun. I'm excited to see that. So,
Oh yeah, for sure. It's interesting seeing some of the teams in general and some of their records. Right, we were just scrolling through it before we did this, and I'm like, wow, this team had a crazy record this year. Like that's I
mhm.
never knew they were that good, and it's kind of cool to see
Yeah,
some of these teams from the past that might not be in as good of a situation now. So
yeah, yeah, definitely. All right. I think that about covers it. I think I don't know when Rob will be back, but it should be soon. He just finished up his quarter, so summer's here, baby.
there you go. Right, I mean, I'm sure if you tag him in Discord constantly, he will definitely hate that and have to come back on just out of spite. So maybe you do something like that.
Yeah, yeah. There we go.
We can see if he listens to the show when he's not on it, because maybe he'll call me out for that one. We'll see.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. All right. Well, good luck with recruits. Good luck with everyone's games, everybody, and everyone pray for Hoffmeister to Dominican.
Oh yeah, fun starts tomorrow. Thanks, Andrew.
All right. See you later, Chris.
See ya.
Bye.